This is Let Us Interrupt You here on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. I am doing it. This is the second episode this week, and you're not going to see me again pretty much until most likely either Tuesday or next week on Saturday, depending on what's going on in my schedule this week. I might be doing another show on Tuesday. We have so much of a loaded up show today, not too much, maybe a little much than I was planning on talking about today, but it's been a very crazy. There was no point of waiting until Saturday to break the news about most of the stuff that's going on in sports. So I decided to do it today. Mike is not here. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure if Mike's going to do any more of these episodes. I just got to be honest. His scheduling has been no good. I have not heard from him at all about when he would be coming back to the show, if he is coming back to the show. We'll see what happens. At this point right now, I've been told that, he's been, by most of my viewers, that he's been slack-offish, not really putting a lot of effort into it, really not committable. And, I've even had my own mother say this to me. My father has said it to me. Other listeners, I've gone around actually near my work. I've had people actually telling me that, he's been really, I don't know what he's useful for. I even have my neighbor across the street over here who's told me that he is completely useless. He's more useful behind the camera, and that's a good friend of mine. I don't want to diss him, but I will say one thing though. He has really been a silent partner in this whole thing. When putting this whole podcast together, really, I was the one that came up with the name. I came up with the channel. I came up with the social media platform for it. You name it, the whole 9 yards. And everyone should know because I put the description in the social media in there every day. I forgot to do it again. Put the social media description in there again today. So I decided to leave that one out. But there's been a lot of news today. Really some sad news, some shocking news. Really, and just the NFL looking worse and worse every day with the whole Daniel Snyder and Rodger Goodell situation. The Stanley Cup Finals were on last night. As many of you probably will know or probably don't know, the Colorado Avalanche are now up 3-1 in their series. They had a nice comeback last night against Tampa Bay Lightning. It took overtime, but they pulled it out. They got a victory, and now they can go back into Game 5 back in Colorado this Friday night, which is tomorrow night. To finish the series off, hopefully in Colorado, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. You never know with Tampa Bay. They could stir some magic up. I don't think they're going to come back and win the series. As far as the series goes, I think this is still going to be a 6-game series. I still think Tampa Bay is going to take Game 5 somehow, even though it's going back to Colorado. But I could see Colorado because it's always been the weirdest thing with Stanley Cup Finals matchups. They've always seemed to find a way to take it on the road. And I know people are thinking technically last year, Montreal and Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay won, at home against Montreal, in the end. I don't believe, and I look at that Stanley Cup final. I thought that cup last year was a joke. I think this Stanley Cup final this year has been very entertaining, despite what the series is up right now. Colorado's a tough team. They're not going to back down from anybody. Tampa Bay might have struck earlier in that game last night, but Colorado is a team that you're not going to want to mess with. They've been chasing at the cup now. They finally get a taste of it now. They're up 3-1. Are they going to win Game 5 tomorrow night? I hope I'm wrong about that and such, but I'll get more into that later on in the show. I'm actually going to start off with some baseball. Talk about the Red Sox yesterday sweeping Detroit Tigers, which is not that surprising considering the Red Sox have been really good lately. They start off on a slow start. I've been told I may have said something offensive towards Major League Baseball. I may have upset some fans about the game of baseball. I didn't think. I looked back and I was told I said the game might be fake. I don't believe I ever recalled saying that, but if I did say that, I apologize. But I wasn't. I don't think I said that. I looked back in the clips. I couldn't even find a clip that I may have uttered those words. But I will gracefully apologize if I did in advance. So I am apologizing for that because I don't really normally call sports fake. You could call pro wrestling fake, but I don't really call sports fake, but it's rare that I ever do. Anyway, the Red Sox here this last month has been interesting because I had my doubts about them. I really have. Now they're 8 games above 500 thanks to last night's sweeping of the Tigers last night. They were able to pull out a win thanks to Snyder and a 6-2 win. He had hits a two-run homer last night in this whole thing. Javier Baez opened the game up with a homer to left field last night. Breen was able to score, made it 2-0. It was a 2-run shot to the off the monster. Duran doubled deep left field. Dahlbeck scored and Vasquez scored, tying the game up 2-2. Snyder had a 2-run shot, and Verdugo had a single to left field in the 5th, which allowed Snyder to score and Martinez to score, made it 6-2. And that's all they really wrote. Red Sox get the sweep here. It's a big win. It's a really big win for the Red Sox. I think they needed this sweep here on a garbage team like Detroit that at this point, they ain't going anywhere this year. There were a lot of hopes for them this year, starting out the year. As a matter of fact, a lot of people pegged them to be better than the Boston Red Sox themselves. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Detroit's really falling down far from where they were in years past. I mean, this is a team that's just really struggling in the worst way possible, and it seems like now they got a long climb back up, and I don't think they're going to make it. They're playing at Arizona Diamondbacks this weekend. The Tigers, I think they get swept. I think the Tigers don't have good enough pitching to compete with the Diamondbacks. Their bullpen is just not as good, I don't think. And their hitters, I think, are just slightly better. And you're going on the road in Arizona like that, Chase Field, not really a strong, tough place to play at, but the fan base there, they're hit and miss really with them. But the team overall on the road, Detroit, I wouldn't bet on them in this series at all to take any of these games in Arizona. I mean, they went to Fenway this week and they just did not do a thing. I mean, this was a terrible game, terrible series overall for Detroit. They just completely crapped the bed. It's that simple. They completely crapped the bed. Waka last night for the Red Sox had a great night pitching. He improved to 6-1 thanks to the win last night. He went 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. Only really allowed about 5 hits, really. Good, solid start. Great, solid start, actually, for Michael Waka. Waka's been surprising lately. I am surprised because I think overall he's been the best pitcher in the entire ball club this year. People want to say, he's an average pitcher, but I got to be honest with you now. I was a little pumped up about him because he can give you something. I mean, I didn't think he was going to give you a 6-1 record. I thought maybe a 5-2, 7-3 record maybe, but 6-1. And I could see him winning his next 3 or 4 starts. I mean, if he keeps pitching like this, I mean, you outdueled, Noah Syndergaard a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, this guy can do it. I mean, he's capable. He is capable of battling against really tough pitching. Now, Screwball is an average pitcher in Detroit. Screwball is not that elite of a pitcher. He's kind of average at best. He's had he only went 4 2/3 last night. Young kid, it's just starting out. His ERA's been pretty good. He's had 84 strikeouts. He's tied 17th overall with that, but he's got a long way. He needs some time. He needs a little bit more development, a little more seasoning, in my opinion, to get back in that conversation, to make a name of yourself someday. Got a long way to go. Anyway, the Yankees won their series. They took 2 out of 3 against the Tampa Bay Rays last night, and a 5-4 win. Yankees improved to 51-18. The Rays to 37-32. I believe right now, if I'm not mistaken, Tampa Bay is behind the Red Sox by a game and a half for the third, or I believe for either second place or third place. I'm not sure if Boston has shot above them yet, but Toronto, I know, won their game as of yesterday, avoiding a sweep against Chicago, which they improved, I believe, and they are 39-30. So they're only half a game back of second place, the Red Sox. The Rays are, unfortunately, a game and a half back and 2 games back for second, game and a half really for third. But the Yankees overall, honestly, were really good, really solid, I think, last night. Judge homered twice. He's now got 27 home runs on the season. The Red Sox are looking inside right now at getting Aaron Judge. This could be a big trade right now that could be possible because right now he's not got an extension yet from the Yankees just yet. I'd say give it to him if I'm the Yankees. at this point. He's shown at this point that he's a team player and he's willing to help the team out when things get rough. And he's really been the sole reason the Yankees have been successful this year. I mean, besides their pitching, without him, if let's say he was gone and sat out like 20 or 30 games or so, let's say, and had no production from him whatsoever, and he was injury prone and never played, I don't know if this Yankees team would have been in first place this year. I got to be honest. Yes, you have Stanton. Yes, you have Josh Donaldson, but Judge is a nice key piece. He's a number one guy. Donaldson, I would put him as a number two guy. Stanton's your number three guy, I don't think. Stanton is not the man for the Yankees. I'm sorry. No matter how much money you give this guy, no matter how much he's worth, no matter what production, what he brings, he's not the number one guy in the team. He's not the face of the franchise, I don't think, as far as, making things happen. In clutch situations, I'd put my money on Judge more. I would put my money on Stanton or even Donaldson for that matter. I think the Yankees are much more physical, much more tougher. Their bats are kind of scary at this point. Their pitching is also kind of scary, although they're missing Chapman right now because he is on the IL right now. So, but with him coming back and you add him as a closer, you got to threaten closing right now, and you got some threats with the bats and threats with the pitching. It's a pretty good thing if you're a Yankee fan. You got the best record in baseball right now. You're 51 wins. You're the only team right now, I believe, with 50 wins right now. I don't see anybody slowing down this team. They're staying in first place the rest of the year. There's no one that's going to come close and taking that first place spot away from that Yankee team. I just don't see it. They're too much with the bat. They're too much with their bullpen's been solid. Let's put it that way. Their bullpen's been solid. Starting pitching rotation's been pretty good too. But Judge has been almost unstoppable at this point. He may as well be the MVP this year. Right now, running away with it. No question in my mind about that. Sticking with the AL East for just a second, I would go back with the Blue Jays. I mentioned earlier they lost the series against the Chicago White Sox. I was surprised about this. They were up as much as 7-0 thanks to Bichette's homer grand slam. Actually, Hernandez had a 2-run shot as well. Kirk had a RBI single and a homer to center field. And the White Sox tried to get back into it, but they didn't really came up really short here as they lost 9-5 yesterday. I'll give you the rest of the scores right now. Texas Rangers beat the Philadelphia Phillies 4-2. In this series alone, the Rangers, took the series 2 games out of 2. There was only a 2-game series. Philadelphia drops to 36-34. They were 36-32 in the beginning of the week. They got swept. Padres beat the Diamondbacks yesterday 10-4. They improve to a nice little 44-27 record as they sweep the Diamondbacks this week. The Marlins beat the Colorado Rockies this week 7-4 as they took excuse me for 1 second. I just lost my scoreboard here. Here we go. As this week, the Marlins basically swept the Rockies this week at home. So they took that one right now. They're still 5 games below 500, but we'll see what happens if their run continues. Dodgers beat the Reds this week. Yesterday, 8-4. Nice little series they had in Cincinnati. They actually continuing their series today as they're up now 7-1 in the 6th. But as of yesterday, and as if they win today, they sweep the Reds. Really, so the Reds right now are garbage. The Orioles beat the Nationals yesterday 7-0 in 6 innings. They had a rain out. They could not continue the game. Cardinals beat the Brewers 5-4. Mariners beat the Athletics 9-0. Angels beat the Royals 5-0. I wanted to get on this for a second because Ohtani had struck out 13 Kansas City Royals yesterday. And the game before that, he had 8 RBIs. First player to ever do this in history. To have a game where you had 8 RBIs and the next day you had to pitch and you throw for 13 strikeouts in 8 innings has never been done before. And I don't believe it's ever going to be done ever again. But the Angels avoid a sweep, believe it or not, against the Kansas City Royals this week. Very disappointing weekend, I would say, for the Angels, because after you came up with 3 out of 4 series against Seattle and you do nothing at home against a crappy Kansas City Royal team, it's very disappointing. It's very sad. They really could have done more in that series. That would have made sense. But yeah, unfortunately, that was not to be the case. The Cardinals this week, well, won 2 out of 3 against the Brewers. They won 5-4 as of yesterday. Mariners, like I said before, beat the Athletics 9-0. Let's see if I missed any scores here. I don't believe I did. The Braves beat the Giants 4-3. They had a walk-off single. Okay, my connection is unstable. I'm having a problem with the connection, so seems fine now. Okay. I just had I was not focused there for a minute there. The last time I had a problem with the connection with the show here, unfortunately, my show got deleted. So I was hoping that was not going to be the same case here with this laptop here with the connection problems, which the Wi-Fi is a great connection. I'm in a great connection in the kitchen, as you can see. So I'm not sure why that's happening. But anyway, as I was saying, the Braves were Duvall caps out the Braves comeback yesterday. They were down as much as 3-1 in this game. Swanson had a homer to center field in the 9th, made it 3-2. Contreras had a RBI single to left field, which was another score, and Duvall had the walk-off single. So the Braves had a pretty good week. They took 2 out of 3 against the Giants. They've had a really good week. And right now, and so far right now, because the series continues today, they're actually up right now 7-4. They're in the bottom of the 6th. I might as well just give you the scores right now for all the games that are on right now. Cubs are beating before that, I would just say the Cubs beat the Pirates yesterday 14-5. But as of right now, here are your scores right now. Pirates are beating the Cubs right now 5-2. The Braves are beating the Giants 7-4. The Rockies are on the tied 2-2 in the bottom of the 7th. Dodgers are beating the Reds 8-1. The Twins are beating the Guardians 1-0. Cardinals are beating the Brewers 2-1. And the Mariners and Athletics play later on tonight. The Astros and the Yankees start their 4-game set tonight in Yankee Stadium. Probably the biggest series all weekend, hands down. The Orioles are beating the Orioles are playing the White Sox later on tonight, 8:10, and the Philadelphia Phillies are playing the Padres tonight at 9:40. So that's that. Now let's move on to the Stanley Cup Final. That was on as of yesterday, last night, I should say. And that was a very good game last night as they had a comeback in the series, as they came back last night and won it in overtime 3-2. Very great game last night. The Lightning came out within the first 36 seconds, scored a goal, made it 1-0, which I really thought this was going to be a long night because it got to that point because it was 6-2 the other night when the Lightning won that game 3 at home. It was Carilli that scored in the first 36 seconds. McKinnon answered in the second period with a power play goal, assist by Ronaton and Maker. Hedman got the assist from Ruda. Made it 2-1 Tampa Bay. Colino scored late in the third period, or early in the third period, excuse me. Made it 2-2. And Kadari got the game-winning overtime goal. Made it 3-2 as the Avalanche are now up 3-1 in their series against the Lightning here. The Lightning are a tough team, so I'm not calling this series over yet. It'd be premature at this point if I did call this series to be over with now at this point. The Avalanche deserved this year. I had Colorado in the beginning of the year going into the Stanley Cup Final. At first, I thought it would be Edmonton at first because I thought, if it wasn't going to be the Avalanche, it would probably be the Oilers. But this team is physical defensively. They're not scared. They're never out. They come at you with a lot of force. And they're probably the strongest defensive team right now in hockey I think I've seen in a long time. Now, the NHL is not the same as it used to be with their fights and their brawls and stuff like that. And sometimes there's way too much officiating going on in these games. But this is the one team that I would say has impressed me the most within the last 5 years. A team that really should have been in the Stanley Cup Final probably the last 3 times out of the last 5 years, in my opinion. The teams that got in there either never had to face the Avalanche or the Avalanche got eliminated by pure luck against another team that really had no business advancing. And they were just too tired probably and didn't have enough rest. In this case here, And I'm just being honest here. The Colorado Avalanche right now have a chance to win this in 5 games. They have a chance to close it out in Colorado. Tampa has not won one game in this series so far in Colorado. And I'm telling you right now, because I just think that Tampa Bay right now at this point, can make some magic happen and avoid being eliminated in 5 games and avoid being embarrassed as they're trying to go for a three-peat instead they lose in 5 games. Listen, I look at it like this. Colorado's too tough for Tampa Bay to handle. That's just the truth. Tampa Bay right now has got some great defensive play along with Colorado, but I think they're no match. And I think Colorado is going to use that to their advantage going back into Game 5. I just don't think after last night with that lucky goal in the end that this is going to end in 5 games. Because I think Colorado wants to stick it to Tampa Bay in their home court one more time. I think they do. As crazy as that sounds, and as a mistake that would be because Tampa Bay would get themselves pumped up and force a Game 7 and go back to Colorado. I just think, and that's been a common theme here with these games and in these series every year. It seems like every year the road team always gives it to the home team. It seems to be a common theme almost every year. I mean, over the last couple of years, it's kind of debatable because of the whole COVID-19 pandemic. But the road team has always found a way to stick it to the home team. It's insane. By the way, there hasn't been a sweep. I don't think I may have mentioned this the other day, but I'm going to mention it again. There has not been a sweep in the Stanley Cup final since 1998. So it's another factor going into it. I didn't think it would be a sweep anyway, go either way, but the fact that it's 3-1 really did surprise me. I really thought Tampa Bay was going to win last night. Because Tampa Bay finds a way to win home games. And by the way, this loss last night for Tampa Bay ends a streak that they had going. They had an 8-game winning streak at home during the playoffs, and it got snapped last night. So that's it for Tampa Bay as far as I'm concerned. As far as, losing a game like that. I mean, I just think they're going to win Game 5. I do. Even though it's in Colorado. And I just really think this is how this is going to go. I think Colorado's going to take Game 6 in Tampa Bay. I mean, it'd be nice if the Avalanche won it at home and hoist the cup at home and all that, but I can't imagine Tampa Bay going down like that. They're way too good for that. They proved me wrong throughout the entire playoffs. I had them eliminated in the first round against the Toronto Maple Leafs. They beat them in 7 games in Toronto. And then they swept the Florida Panthers, who were the best team in hockey. By the way, I might want to mention they actually got a new head coach, and Paul Maurice, who's probably right now one of the greatest coaches he's at this point. He's got so many career wins. He's got over 775 career wins as a head coach. He's been coaching at least over 1,000 games, if not more. But they got a new head coach now in Florida now. His name is Paul Maurice. But anyway, going back to my point right now about the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, they've just been excellent. They've been excellent. They took the New York Rangers to the limit. They completely ripped their soul right out of them in Madison Square Garden and forced a Game 6 back at home. And now here in this series right now, I mean, unfortunately, they ran into a buzzsaw in Colorado. That it is what it is. But I just see Tampa Bay not out of it just yet. Their souls are not completely ripped out of them just yet. I'm not convinced of it. I'm not convinced of it. So we'll see what happens now going forward with that one. As we are moving on from that to the news of the shocking news this week that I'm kind of like not convinced by, which is Rob Gronkowski retiring this week again. This is the second retirement now for Rob Gronkowski. This is right now, according to the New York Times right now. I got the article right here. Much to the relief of defensive coordinators, end zones, and footballs, and the dismay of the party boats, keg suppliers, and content aggregators, Rob Gronkowski announced Tuesday that he was again retiring from the NFL. By the way, I got this article right after the podcast, so I did not have a chance to do this on my actual podcast. This time he means it. Gronkowski revealed his plans on Instagram, where he often shares merry tidbits of his married life, such as the Gronk Beach extravaganza in Las Vegas and clips promoting the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, which he co-hosted in April. Of course he did. Across his 11th NFL season, Gronkowski, 33 years old, a very serious football player, was a very unserious personality, leavened the stoogey league with sort of playful destructiveness. His joy the very spawned countless memes, perhaps none more endearing than his, quote, "Yo soy fiesta," exclamation, butchered Spanish that translates, "I am party," after a playoff game in 2012. His poetic surname, Bigot of the Bigot, the perfect nickname for a 6'6", 265-pound tight end, as Gronk joined the lexicon as a noun, verb, and sometimes even an adjective, where he's precisely named, say, Herman Wiseman. Gronkowski might never has emerged as quite the phenomenon that he did. Instead, he oozed Gronkness, celebrating touchdowns by Gronking Gronk spikes. He gronked plenty, 92 in the regular season, more than any other player since he debuted in 2010, according to Pro Football Reference, and 15 more in the postseason. That's 107 Gronk spikes we've seen. Blessed with his enormous hands from thumb to pinky, they measured 10 3/4 inches, nearly as long as a football. Gronkowski leveled pass rushers, stampede safeties, and grabbed passes over the cornerbacks. As marvelous as a blocker as a receiver, redefining his position, and he was named All-Pro 4 times and was selected to 5 Pro Bowls. And he's got 4 Super Bowl rings to go along with it. 3 came with New England, of course. 1 came with Tampa Bay during the pandemic year in 2020. This story, I'm not convinced that Gronk's retired. I don't know what it is. I just, it's hard for me to take it into this point. It's hard for me to believe. And a lot of people were questioning the other day, is Tom Brady still the GOAT without Rob Gronkowski? He is. He won the first 3 Super Bowls of his career without Rob Gronkowski being in the league. And that was 6 years before he even entered the league. So to me, he can win another one without him. It's fine. Now, it may make odds makers drip a little bit downward because I think people were convinced that Gronk was going to re-sign with the Bucs. But I just look at him and I say to myself, you know what? He's done plenty now at this point. He came back. He went to 2 different cities. He won 2 Super Bowls with those cities. I mean, what's he got left to prove? He's got 107 touchdowns in his career. 15 of them in the postseason, 92 of them during the regular season. He's got nothing left to prove. I just feel like, to me, this is a game with the Buccaneers organization right now wanting to get more money. He's trying to play the game. But the Bucs aren't going to play around this time. They're not, they're going to look at it and go, well, we got Russell Gage, we got Mike Evans, we got Chris Godwin. We don't really need you, Gronk. We got Cameron Brate. We don't really need you. And I don't think Brady's going to need you. Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking in my head right now, well, Brady's got a new friend in Russell Gage. He's got a new buddy now in Mike Evans. He's got a new buddy now in Chris Godwin. He got rid of the distraction in Antonio Brown. Gronk's another distraction. And Gronk's peacefully, respectfully signed himself off for now until, whatever time they want to call midway through the regular season. I mean, he's done this before. And I know what people are thinking right now. They're thinking, oh, Gronk didn't mention the Patriots in the Instagram thing. Here's another factor going through it. This is his 2nd retirement. Number 2. First one, he retired with you guys. So get over it. What do you want from the guy? Belichick didn't want him anymore. He gracefully traded him to Tampa Bay, where he could play with Tom Brady, instead of trading him to a crapbag team, right? Like he was trying to do in 2018, Belichick. So, I mean, I don't understand why people are upset about what he didn't say about the Patriots. Who cares? And let's be fair about this for a minute. The fact that Tom Brady didn't mention anything about the Patriots. Let's be honest here. If Tom Brady, let's say Tom Brady stayed retired and stayed in New England and retired as a Patriot, you know how much ass kissery he would have given to that Patriot organization? Would have given a lot to that organization. This case here with Rob Gronkowski, look, he already retired once as a Patriot, now he retired once as a Buccaneer. He may get his jersey retired someday for both Tampa Bay and New England. Because if it wasn't for Tampa, if it wasn't for New England, I don't think Gronk would ever play with Tom Brady ever. He would probably have been playing with the likes of Drew Brees or Phillip Rivers. I'm just being realistic here. But I don't think Rob Gronkowski, I'm not convinced this is a real retirement. I'm not convinced of it. You know, and that thing that he posted on Instagram the other day, where he had a writing assignment in a college writing class, I think it was, and he said that he wanted to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look, he lived this dream. He won a championship in his first year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Think about that, with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and really possibly one of the best duos of all time, with from a quarterback and tight end perspective. Now, if you go listen to First Take today, according to Chris Mad Dog Russo, he put him at number 5 behind Starr and Kramer, Gasper and Stabler, was it Fouts and Winslow, I think it was, and I think there was another one on the list. I don't have the list in front of me. But anyway, and I said that like Brady and them are number 1. And you go, oh, yeah, Unitas and Mackey, that was another one. Unitas and Mackey, I believe, was number 2. Number 1, I believe, was Fouts and Winslow. Stephen A. Smith and I agree on the same thing. I mean, Brady and them are number 1. I don't know what Stephen A. Smith had for his list, but I know he had Brady and Gronk number 1. And of course they are. 4 Super Bowls with both each other, multiple conference championships with one another. Hell, and Brady even won a Super Bowl without him. Brady has won a Super Bowl without him before in the past. Look at that 28-3 game. Did Gronkowski play in that game? No. You won a Super Bowl without Rob Gronkowski after you were down 28-3. Brady's still the GOAT. Hate to say it. And a security blanket, as far as I'm concerned, you know, people, and I heard it today on Zolek and Bertrand today. Again, shout out to them for posing the question early on their show today. What's Tom Brady's security blanket? Was it Gronkowski or was it Julian Edelman? Julian Edelman was the one. Hell, Julian Edelman won an MVP for Tom Brady. He had one of the greatest performances against a really great Ram defense the year after they lost the Super Bowl to the Eagles. They went in against the Rams, and they not only did their defense play great, but Edelman played fantastically. He exposed Talib. He exposed Marcus Peters. Both guys couldn't cover him, and they both sucked in that game against him. Edelman could get open at any time, no matter who was covering him. It didn't matter. That's how good Edelman is. Now, it's too bad that Edelman's going to come out of retirement now and not play with Tom Brady. But you got to know, if the Patriots suck this year, and let's say they do hypothetically, let's say they start with a 1-5 record this year and the trade deadline is looming, Edelman's going to ask for a trade and go to play in Tampa Bay. That's it. I'm convinced of that. And I think when that happens, if it does happen, I'm not thinking that, I don't believe it's going to happen this year, though, but I'm just saying a hypothetical here that if Edelman wanted to leave New England because of a really awful start by Mac Jones and the Patriots, and how much that Patriot team would struggle, he would take a trade any day of the week, and Brady would call him up. The trade would happen. Gronk would come out of retirement, and that's that. I think Gronk's going to come out of retirement midway through the season no matter what anyway. I'm not convinced this retirement is real. I am. I'm not convinced. I gave you the accolades. Yes, I get it. But I could see Rob Gronkowski coming in like mid-November, early December, sometime right around the road. A lot of people, I was thinking yesterday, probably in that week 4 game when they play against the Kansas City Chiefs on October 2nd, I think the date is. It's a Sunday night game. And Gronk's retired the first 4 weeks of the year. He comes out. Like, I can't imagine it. I can't imagine him coming out that early. But I thought about it. I thought, well, maybe that would happen. It'd be a lot of fun segments for the podcast. It'd be a lot of great things for sports radio. But Gronk, to me, I just don't think this retirement's real. I'm not convinced. I'm really not convinced at all. So that's that. I mean, I got all my thoughts out there about Gronk. Deshaun Watson this week settled 20 lawsuits out of the 24 civil lawsuits, plus the 2 more that were in the picture, 25 and 26. I said it before, I'll say it again. This guy's still getting suspended no matter what for the entire season. Could be even longer. Okay? But here's what the report said. This was by Mark Maskey and Nikki Javaba. on the Washington Post. By the way, the last article I read about Gronk was from the New York Times. I did not get a chance to look at the person who wrote the article. Anyway, this is what it says here. Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson has reached a settlement agreements in 20 of the 24 civil lawsuits filed against him by women who accused of him of sexual misconduct. The attorney for the women announced Tuesday. Lawyer Toynette Busby called the settlement terms confidential and said he expects the remaining 4 lawsuits to be resolved in court. And he said, and also said, quote unquote, today I announced that all cases against Deshaun Watson, with the exception of the 4, have settled. He said in a statement, we are working through the paperwork related to those settlements. Once we have done so, those particular cases will be dismissed. The terms and the amounts of the settlements are confidential. We won't comment further on the settlements or those cases, close quote. Watson has not been charged with a crime here. He still faces a potential suspension by the NFL under its personal conduct policy. Today, and this was what Brian McCarthy had also said here, quote, today's development has no implement on the collective bargain disciplinary process. He is the spokesman for the NFL. Watson and his attorney, Rutson Hardin, have denied the allegations. Of the remaining civil lawsuits, Busby said, I look forward to trying these cases in due course, consistent with other docket obligations and the court's schedule. Now, even with these lawsuits settled here, this is my take. There's more coming, okay? 66 massage therapists at this point, and there's only 26 of them. There's going to be 40 more to go. Yes, there's 20 of them already settled at this point. There's going to be at least 46 more by the end of all of this. So Watson's not off the hook by any means necessary. Even if these other 4 or 6 settle here, he's not off the hook. He's got a long way to go, in my opinion. He's got a long journey ahead of him. And right now, at this point, with what the Cleveland Browns are going to have to put up with the rest of the year with this, not sure if Baker Mayfield's going to want to stay here in Cleveland anymore now. There's been rumors about him and Jimmy G, possibly a trade working out with those guys. You know, it just, to me, it's interesting, because it really is interesting now at this point, with how crazy this whole thing has played out. Like the fact that this trade even happened. Like the fact has been that with these lawsuits, there's not been a suspension yet. The fact that they're willing to wait until late July, that just makes the NFL look bad, by the way. If you're going to wait at least 4 months, because by the way, when all this came out, this is like, now I got to wait an extra 3 or 4 months for a suspension. If I was the NFL, if I was the commissioner, if I was all the owners out there, I would look at what this one guy said. I would say this guy is suspended for an entire year. If there was 1 or 2 lawsuits, maybe, I'd say 4 to 6 games. No questions asked. They're settled out of court. There's no problems. And by the way, the fact that it's not going to take up OTA time and minicamp time between late part of May and late part of June, fine. If it's settled right before all that stuff has started, that's great. But this is right in the middle of it, which makes it, which for Watson, he can play around and he can go to minicamp and throw the ball around and be like, yeah, I'm trying to connect with my team, because he knows that he's not out of the woods just yet. He can look confident with his attorney, with Rusty Hardin, but he's not out of the woods yet. He's not out of the woods. He's got a long way to go before he's out of the woods with this whole thing. And I got to be honest, Watson is screwed. I said he's done for 2022. There's no way that he's going to play 1 game this year. And I just can't see it in 2022. And if he does, this just makes the NFL look bad. It hurts all the credibility they have with charities. It hurts all the credibility they have with the owners, with the commissioner. It hurts everything. The spokespeople, the pride and all that, the women's rights and all that. It just, everything that the NFL has tried to live up to their standards here and respect it. And it's just spitting on people who've dealt with domestic abuse and domestic violence and sexual assault conducts. I mean, think about Big Ben for a minute. This is a guy that had a lot of problems with this whole thing. The difference was that it was never as big as Deshaun Watson's. Sure, he got 6 games suspension, got reduced to 4 games, but you want to know something? Because the owners control his commissioner so easily. He's easily manipulated. It's pathetic. It's actually really pathetic. The testimony on this, with Goodell, with the other in regards to this, and this is actually leading right into the 9X story here, which was the whole Daniel Snyder thing, that he's going to get a subpoena as of next week. Daniel Snyder faces Congress a subpoena as Goodell testified, and this did not put Goodell in a good light here. It really didn't. So, and this is based on the disgusting actions with the Washington Commanders. He was asked actually whether or not, is Daniel Snyder going to get removed? Quote unquote, he said it's at 150 as of yesterday. Quote, I do not have the authority to remove Dan Snyder. Well, of course he doesn't, because the commissioner is got 32 other bosses that tell him what to do. So he would not have the power. It's really up to 3/4 of the ownership, really. 24 out of the 32 owners have to vote on the removal of an owner. Now, Snyder has stepped down and his wife is taking over. I've already mentioned on the podcast before. That whole Snyder family is all tainted. They're tainted. The wife's just as bad as the husband in this whole thing. As a matter of fact, it's so mind-boggling that this whole thing had to play out the way it did. All the sexual assault things that took place over there. Just everything about that whole thing. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. I never liked Dan Snyder. I always thought Dan Snyder was a sleazeball. He knows all are just as bad as he is. He's just as bad as letting this stuff happen in his own workplace. All the women that were uncomfortable working there at the time, you can't blame him. And when Goodell looks even worse because he's like, I don't recall Daniel Snyder reporting an allegation in 2009. Well, of course you didn't, because you were too busy at the time trying to get the New England Patriots and their Spygate and stuff like that. Let me tell you this right now about Rodger Goodell, why he removed from power. I would say back in 2009, when all this was going down, because this timeline dates back from 2009 to really 2020. But you want to know why Rodger Goodell didn't really look into this? And I bet there was probably news about it. I made to look back at my history about the reports. But I can tell you this right now, because Goodell was so desperate in nailing Tom Brady and nailing Bill Belichick. And the problem is everyone's going to look at it and they're going to say, oh, he's trying to Robert Kraft, though. It doesn't matter. Kraft's willing to throw Bill Belichick under the bus in this whole thing and bust him, even though Kraft is a mastermind behind some of the Spygate stuff, along with Bill Belichick. But the thing of it is that, there was wasted reporting. You got people from the New York Times and Washington Post and Boston Globe and all this stuff right now, all these articles, and turning out to be destroyed evidence because Kraft paid him off. Now I know it puts a Patriot in a bad light, and it makes me, as a Patriot fan, look like I sold out on the team. But the payoff was they lost the Super Bowl, right? In 2007-08 when they went undefeated that season, and that whole Spygate stuff was happening at that time. By the way, every NFL team does it, but I'm just saying the reason that they couldn't do it around Rodger Goodell was it was Goodell's ruling here. When in reality, every NFL owner just said whatever and wiped it all off. The difference was that Goodell really only has one friend out of the 31 owners that are around, or 32 of them, I should say, and that's Robert Kraft. Now, in this case, what's it got to do with Daniel Snyder? Well, Daniel Snyder can get away with anything. They don't care. Daniel Snyder does not care about about the Washington Commanders organization. They don't care. He does not care about the team. That team for the last 15 years has been useless. They've only had, I would say, 3 playoff appearances maybe within the last, 17 years. Think about it. 2005, I think they had another one in 2007, or it might have just been 2. So 2 playoff appearances in the last 17 years. 1 in 05 and 1 in 2012. They've been mediocre ever since. They've never been thought about at any point in time. And it's pretty pathetic if you ask me. That this owner who allows these employees to get like assaulted, whether it's by players, it's by staff members, whatever the case may be. I mean, there's even, I think his name was Larry Michael, I believe, who used to be the play-by-play really announcer for the Washington football team, Commanders, Redskins. I mean, he's done 3 different teams now at this point within the Washington community. And really, he knew this stuff was going on behind the scenes. He saw it happen. He's spoken up about it prior to Daniel Snyder. Daniel Snyder probably went it up and did nothing about it. And maybe he just didn't take into consideration how serious this was because it came from an announcer. It didn't come from his friend. I don't think Larry Michael and them were ever friends. So to me, I hear this story and it doesn't surprise me. And you got someone like Rodger Goodell who's just looks like a phony up there doing his little testimony from home via Zoom because he doesn't have the guts to go down to Washington himself and do it face to face. That's what upsets me here. So this is what the article said here. So Republican Representative Carolyn B. Maloney, the Democrat from New York, woman of the House Committee on the Oversight and Reform, announced during a Capitol Hill hearing Wednesday on the workplace of the Washington's NFL team that the committee intends to issue a subpoena to compel the testimony of the Commanders owner, Daniel Snyder, next week. Maloney told the committee that he did not recall the leaks being formed in 2009 of the allegation of sexual harassment and assault made against Snyder. This was Snyder doing this, by the way, just FYI. Snyder was the one that was making all these assaults. So it may have been even just a staff, but maybe Snyder as well. And, because it's been a lot of it. And for your announcer to witness it happen too, it just makes it even worse, which is probably why he got fired in 2020 or got removed, or maybe he left. I don't remember if he left or got fired. I don't believe he got fired. But anyway, and he also said there was a clip of it from a team broadcaster, Larry Michaels, commenting on the appearance of a female intern in between segments on a team broadcast. Representative Rashida Tlaib put an NFL Commissioner Rodger Goodell on the spot late on Wednesday's hearing, saying, quote, if he would remove owner Commanders Daniel Snyder, and Tlaib described the clip from a team practice as unbelievable and so disgusting, and said Snyder turned a blind eye to things that were happening under his watch as a team owner. It's bad at this point. It's going to get worse over time. It's going to get worse. Goodell's on lack of a written report, redaction doesn't always work in my world. Just the things that he says. I don't even need to keep reading this. He didn't recall the Daniel Snyder reporting the allegation, blah, blah, blah. And Representative Jordan questions Goodell about other football matters. This is the guy, by the way, that addressed David Portnoy, by the way, who was controversial founder of Barstool Sports site and the Commander's decision to find defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio recent comments minimizing the January 6th stuff, insurrection. This is more about there were other things that were covered here as well besides this whole thing. Jordan, Commissioner, you believe in the First Amendment, don't you? Goodell says, I quote, I do. Jordan goes on to say, I mean all parts of it. All rights we have, your right to practice with your faith, your right to petition the government, right to assemble, freedom of press, freedom of speech. You believe in all that? Goodell said yes. And he goes on to say, why do you ban David Portnoy from NFL games? The journalist, in fact, he's a sports journalist. Why is he banned? Goodell, Congressman, I'm not familiar with that issue. I'm happy to check with my staff, but I'm not aware of that. I love how he just goes on saying I'm not aware of it. He's aware of most of the stuff that happens right now. But the problem is that at the time was that you got all these yes people who probably make up bullcrap stories about Dave Portnoy, who probably And Dave Portnoy, by the way, is a big pizza guy, by the way, as well. Big pizza guy, into pizza. It's insane of how much pizza he's into. He goes to every pizza joint all over the world, and he tries out their pizza, and he advertises their restaurants, and their restaurants become huge. Little Caesar Pizza, by the way, getting their sponsors this year is a brand new spokesperson right now for the NFL this year, so the Pizza Hut. So there you go. But anyway, that's an unrelated note there. I only look into this stuff right now because here's my opinion about the whole thing. Goodell looks so bad standing on that stage, sitting at home in his little cushiony couch as he does this from Zoom. Because let's be honest, Goodell's not aware of anything that goes on because he lets somebody else deal with it. It comes to his attention for about 5 seconds, but then after that one, he's just obsessed with the Patriots cheating scandals. He's obsessed with all these NFL owners that come to him trying to convince him that they all cheat. He goes on to say right now, Portnoy responded on a Twitter and called Goodell a liar. Jordan, meanwhile, continued on to derail the Commanders coach who called the January 6th attack on the Capitol a dust-up, comparing it to the racial protests following George Floyd's murder in 2020. Do you agree with the Washington Redskins' decision to fine Jack Del Rio? And Goodell, appearing confused by the turn of the question, responded by saying it was a decision Commanders and the team head coach Ron Rivera had to make. It's just the whole timeline here just looks it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing for this commissioner. Now, granted, nobody cares. He doesn't care how bad he looks because he's getting paid over $500 million to do this stuff. So it doesn't bother him that much that he looks like a complete idiot on Zoom, all not aware of this. Like, shouldn't you be aware? And right now, like, I don't know. I can't imagine Rodger Goodell lying in a court of law and in front of all of Congress people. I mean, it's funny because, it's like, what did Goodell really answer? Goodell just goes, I don't know. I don't know. Do you know anything? Or are you just that freaking useless? You're a useless commissioner as far as I'm concerned. If it's about Robert Kraft, your friendship with him, you can talk about that, no problem. Easily. The whole cheating scandal stuff, sir, no problem. You know what they should have been asked? If there was a cheating scandal to be going on, if there were so many cases, explain the numbers. There were documentations of evidence that you destroyed. Why were you destroyed it? Were you paid off to destroy? That's the question that really I should have been asked at that moment. But, we're never going to get the real truth answer here. We're just going to get the simple, I don't know. I'm not aware. No comment. Like, whatever the case may be, I'm looking into it. I was not notified. I don't recall getting this. Just cop-out answers. That's all this was. Just simple cop-out answers that Goodell's job is safe, even though right now it never is safe. This guy's never had a safe job since really dating back before the NFL lockout. Let's be honest. And this guy should have been fired even before that even happened because of the evidence he destroyed with the Patriots Spygate thing. And this could have actually suspended Tom. This actually could have suspended Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft the entire year. Not much of Tom Brady because Tom Brady's not really that much of a part of it. In fact, if you kind of think about it, really, it was just to help out a defensive players who a year later retired from the game. That's all it was. It was never any more than that. Which, if it gives them an extra boost to go 16-0, which, by the way, you had Tom Brady and Randy Moss, I think, that year of that defense. So that's all I got to say about that season and that 2007 year. Now, it would be perfect if they went 19-0 that year, but that never was the case. So anyway, sad news this week. Moving on from the Daniel Snyder saga in this whole thing. Very sad news this week. This was according to Fox News that Tony Siragusa, legendary football player, 12 seasons in the NFL with the Colts and the Baltimore Ravens, winning a former Super Bowl champion with the Baltimore Ravens. Tony Siragusa passed away at the age of 55. Very sad day. So young. Former NFL defensive lineman who won a Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens has died as a former teammate on Wednesday. There's been no reports yet on the about his death, really. Former Raven running back Jamal Lewis told TM Sports about Siragusa's death. It's a sad day to be a Raven, I must say, Lewis said. That's all he had to say about that one. Indiana's coach owner Jim Irsay tweeted after learning about Goose's death. This is what he said in the tweet. The Goose, Tony Siragusa, has passed away at 55. I am heartbroken, as all of Colts Nation. So the condolences goes out to the friends and family and colleagues for Tony Siragusa. Was an excellent personality, like on and off the football field. And this is what was said here on this whole thing. Ravens team owner Stephen Biscotti has thoughts on this one. This is a quote: Rennie and I are stunned and heartbroken to learn about the sudden passing of Tony Siragusa. He was a special person and clearly one of the most popular players in Ravens history. Tony's larger-than-life personality made an enormous impact on our organization and throughout the Baltimore community. On the football field, Goose was a difference maker who contributed immensely to the success of many great Ravens defenses, including the record-setting 2000 Super Bowl team, which that year they won 35-7 over the Giants that year, and they didn't allow a single offensive touchdown. They allowed a special teams touchdown more than anything else. Our deepest prayers and sympathies go out to Kathy, their 3 children, and the rest of their Siragusa family. This is a tremendously sad day for the Baltimore Ravens. We are appreciate everyone who has expressed an outpouring of support for our players, coaches, and staff. Siragusa joined the Colts in 1990 as an undrafted free agent. The North, New Jersey native, as it was a nose tackle and defensive tackle for the Colts for 7 seasons. He played 96 games for the organization and recorded 16 and a half sacks from 1990 to 1996. He joined the Ravens in 1997 and played for them until 2001. He, alongside players like Ray Lewis and Jamal Lewis and Rod Woodson and Jamie Sharper, defeated the New York Giants. Quote, this is a tough one. I love Goose. This is what Ray Lewis had said. Like a brother. From the first day we met, I knew that life was different. I knew he was someone who would change my life forever. He was a one-of-a-kind person who made you feel important and special. You can never replace a man like that. On the field, he was the ultimate competitor who brought out the best in all of us. He actually had a bruised spinal cord in a football game. He had to get carted off the field, and then an hour later, he came back into the game. Now, the Ravens lost that game in the regular season game against the Tennessee Titans that year. I think they ended up losing that game. I think the Ravens offense couldn't do crap, and they had so many turnovers in that game. The defense held the Titans team up as much as they could. It wasn't a blowout game, really. But anyway, we should never put off tomorrow for what we can do today. Hug your loved ones for Goose. We were all so blessed that God gave us the time together celebrating our 2000 team a few weeks ago. To the Siragusa family, we have lost a great man, but God has gained a great angel. May they be blessed, held, and comfort by the peace he brought to everyone who encountered him. He played 73 games and recorded 5.5 sacks. Over the course of his career, he had played 169 games, recorded 22 sacks, and 564 total tackles. Siragusa, who was an NFL analyst for Fox in 2015 and played the character Frankie Cortez in the HBO series The Sopranos. I actually do remember him in The Sopranos now the more I even think about it. So, but Siragusa had a great, he was a great silent reporter as well. He was an NFL analyst. I want to believe he was a play-by-play guy, if I'm not mistaken, or was he a color commentator for Fox? I don't remember. I know he was an analyst for them, but I don't know if it was. I think he was doing sideline and maybe in the broadcasting booth. I don't recall. But yeah, very sad day. 55 years old, just really young guy. And it's tough for linemen like this because they don't really have long lives because their bodies are so beaten up over the years, and when they retire, they age quicker. You know, I mean, Siragusa was doing a lot at this time, and he was still heavy, but sometimes these linemen just don't live long lives playing this kind of sport because over time those hits they take, it's not easy. Siragusa was a a really big help to that Raven defense. If it wasn't for him up in the nose tackle up the middle, let me put it to you like this. Opponents that averaged games against them when he was in the nose tackle position, they only averaged 0.25 yards. If he was not on the field, they averaged about 5.5 yards. That's incredible right there. Anyway, Jaylen Ferguerson, 26 years old, also was currently the Ravens linebacker, also had passed away. And former Purdue basketball player and was current Portland Trailblazer basketball player, Cam Swanigan, passed away at the age of 25. So condolences goes out to the families, colleagues, and friends of these two guys. 26, 25, way too soon. Absolutely way too soon for these guys to go. No cause of death for either one of these guys. Ferguson, who only played almost about 40 games for the Ravens. Swanigan, who played about 3 seasons with the Portland Trailblazers. Very sad to hear that they had passed away this week. Anyway, I will get into the Chase Claypool story. I have the story as of right here. He was on the I Am the Athlete podcast. I think this was on a few days ago. I didn't get a chance to talk about it on Tuesday's podcast, so I thought I could talk about it here today. During the interview with I Am the Athlete podcast, Claypool laid out his expectations entering year 3. He said, quote, "I'm going to say my second year, I was a better player than I was my first year." He said via Pro Football Talk, "The plays just didn't work out right. Some plays just didn't go my way. I didn't make some plays I need to make, but as a football player, understanding the game, knowing what to do, knowing where to be, I was better. So I'm going to be better this year. And just like you said, understanding I'm not normal. I feel the way when I am on the field. I know for a fact I am not like the rest of the guys in the NFL. I know I'm a top 5 receiver. I know I'm top 3 receiver." Close quote. That's going to leave it at that. I'll give you my thought on this in just a second, because as soon as I just clear this up right now and get back to myself, see myself for a second. I'm just thinking, and I'm thinking, and you know what I'm thinking? Chase Claypool is in that conversation for top wide receiver. Not top 3 though. Maybe top 5, maybe top 15. I just think it's a long shot to say that you're a top 3 wide receiver. It's like saying Cam Newton's the best quarterback in the league. It's not realistic. It's not. And I think realistically, for someone to think highly of themselves, that's good. That's good if you think that way. Prove it on the football field. Win an MVP this year. Take your team to the Super Bowl and be a Super Bowl MVP. Do both. Be player of the week. Be player of the month. If you truly believe that, then prove it. Prove it. I just think that realistically, like a lot of people make this argument. It's just like, is he a top 3 wide receiver? I just think he's got a long way to go. I really do. I don't understand why people go out of their way and they actually believe in this stuff. And I gotta be honest here. You want my honest opinion about Chase Claypool? He's a Notre Dame Fighting Irish wide receiver at best. One of my favorite schools one of the favorite college football schools I like watching when it comes to sports, when it comes to football. They got a great football organization. They do. The guy, he should be thinking highly of himself. I truly believe that. Do I think he's a top 3 wide receiver? No. Top 15, maybe top 20. If he wants to prove me wrong, prove me wrong. He wants to prove all the sports world wrong, prove him wrong. I just don't see it. You want to hear my top 3? I'll give you my top 3 for wide receivers right now so far in the NFL. Here it is. And this is a good one. I'll give you Odell Beckham Jr. being number 3. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Not even Odell Beckham Jr. I'm sorry. I'm off base. Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, and Cooper Kupp. Those are my top 3 guys. Cooper Kupp's number 1 in my opinion. He's the best wide receiver right now in the entire league. Hands down, there's no debate. Devontae has at number 2. It's right there for the taking. And Justin Jefferson, who's just getting better and better every time. That's my top 3. That's all you need to know. Moving on from Chase Claypool, we're going from NFL to college. Jim Tressel, former legendary Ohio State head coach and Youngstown University president, has stepped down as the president of the school. At this point, he has served the role since 2014 following his run with Ohio State. His departure from Ohio State really was forced out of there, really. Report by David Cobb. It says here that former Ohio State head coach Jim Tressel announced that he plans to step down as president of Youngstown State University on February 1st, 2023, after serving the role since 2014. I believe he became president that month in February 1st. There you go. The day of that same day where he got hired, where he got signed there, he can step down that's Tressel was 69 years old, made a successful transition to an academia after his resignation from Ohio State. It ended the Tattoo-gate scandal prior to the 2011 season. It was an abundance of gratitude and thankfulness that Ellen and I planned to step aside as president and first lady of our beloved Youngstown University, effective February 1st, 2023. Tressel wrote in an email to the Youngstown State community, "It has been truly a blessing and labor of love to serve Youngstown State University in a number of capacities, and we will continue to do so in whatever fashion that Youngstown Board of Trustees sees fit." I kind of hope at this point, and I really do hope this happens, that Tressel gets back in I would say, coaches somewhere else. Because, I mean, I can imagine of where he could coach right now in today's college football world. Because, I mean, he's such a great coach. Despite that stupid scandal, he's still one of the greatest coaches, I think, in college football. I'm not going to think of all time, but like for the last 25, 30 years. I mean, maybe he's in the conversation. I don't know. But I'm looking at it from a perspective where I would say he could possibly take the place of Jim Harbaugh, maybe be the new LSU head coach, because I have a really funny feeling that Brian Kelly's not going to last long there. It's just, I don't see it with that guy. But Jim Tressel, I could see it. I could see him competing. I mean, it'd be tough to compete with Nick Saban, but you're never too. I think for Youngstown University, for a school that really hasn't had any hype to it in a long time, it's just, it is what it is. I mean, you hear stuff like this. You hope the guy goes out on a high note here right now. Maybe he steps down from college football altogether, retires, and lives out in Florida, maybe goes to the beach. But I don't think he's done. Yes, he's 69 years old. I don't think he's done coaching. To me, I just think that he can still coach a really good football team. He can coach Michigan. He can coach LSU. He can coach Texas Longhorn. He can coach Oklahoma. He can coach. There's a variety of schools he can coach. Now, granted, there's a lot of great head coaches out there right now that should not lose their job over it. But that's the only schools that I can think of. Jim Harbaugh, to me, and Brian Kelly are in a no-win situation. Brian Kelly got to compete in the SEC West with the likes of Nick Saban. Jim Harbaugh and the school athletic department and the president of the school, they don't want Harbaugh to be around. So what do? You grab an outsider. If Jim Harbaugh acts up one time or, starts crap before the season starts, you let the guy go. You bring in Jim Tressel in. Now, granted, he won't be able. Obviously, he's not eligible to coach this season, but next season, and let's just say realistically, Jim Harbaugh already lost the locker room in 2022 by the end of it, and they have a bad year. They have a bad year. He's getting fired. There's no question about it. He's not gonna go out on a high note here. So I'm gonna tell you this right now: if somehow Michigan has a better year this year, I'll be shocked. But I just think with all the tension that's going on in Michigan, with all the drama that's going on down there in that school, with the fact he tried to get a job at Minnesota Vikings and he failed, and he looks like he came crawling back to Michigan, it just doesn't look good for Harbaugh right now. If they have a crap back year, he's gone. And I think Tressel takes the job. And really, it would be a way to stick it to really Ohio State people who really let this guy go. He was forced out of there for a scandal that was ridiculous. And it wasn't really on him. I don't blame him in the slightest for this thing. So I just think that would be a really good way to coach one last time in your Big Ten, but against the team that you used to coach for, you want to go up against them again, it would be so interesting. It would be. It really would be. Anyway, the NBA draft is on tonight on ABC. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock on ESPN. I think the draft will be starting at 8 o'clock tonight. A lot of prospects in tonight's NBA draft, including Pablo Pancharo, the Duke shooting guard, projected to go third in the first round to the Houston Rockets. Chet Holmgren is, according to some reports right now, Pablo is favored as plus 350 right now to be the first pick in the first round to go to Orlando. But here's the prospect list tonight. You got OG Abaje, senior from Kansas. Abayu Dianco Badaji, center from Spain. Patrick Baldwin Jr., forward out of Milwaukee. Duke Pablo Panjaro, Dominic Barlow, Team Overtime, G League Ignite, Manjar Beach Camp. Hugo Benson, Jamari Bohara, Malky Braham, Christian Braun, Kendall Brown, Gabe Brown, Tavion Brown. By the way, all the guys right now just named right now going from Ohio State, Kansas, Baylor, Michigan State, Murray State, and John Butler, freshman center at 19, going from Florida State, St. John's, Julian Champagne, Kenny Chandler, Maxie Christine, Kofi Cockburn, Dyson Daniels, Johnny Davis, J.D. Davison, named a few lists for right now, going from Michigan State, Illinois down to Michigan. But anyway, Chet Holmgren, by the way, the big center out of Gonzaga. My thoughts on him right now is I think he ends up going in the first pick. I would say right now, Jabari Smith Jr. out of Auburn will be the first pick here. I think Paulo Banchero will go to Oklahoma City here, and I think Chet Holmgren is going to Houston. Those are just my first three picks. I'm not going to give you every single pick here. But I will recap the draft on Tuesday. If I do a show on Tuesday, I probably won't do a show on Tuesday. I don't know yet, depending on my schedule. But yeah, Mark Williams, another nickname for a center out of Duke. Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara, forward. Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame, freshman guard. Freshman forward out of UCLA, Peyton Watson, another big name. A lot of big names in this one. Bryson Williams, 24 years old, out of Texas Tech, another forward. Just name a bunch here. It looks good on paper right now. These guys. This is a loaded NBA draft tonight. So we'll see what happens now going forward with how that draft's going to look. I think it'll be an interesting story. It'll be live in Brooklyn, New York tonight in the Barclays Center. And I will probably give my NBA draft analysis information through social media. It may be. I may just give all the results here and not even talk about it in my show on Tuesday. So anyway, more NBA news. Jamari Grant was traded yesterday to the Portland Trail Blazers for the first round pick. They were not going to be able to get the first round pick without the trade here. So they were able to trade away with from Detroit. They were swapping picks here. So I think Portland had the 5th pick, I believe, and Detroit had the 7th pick. So now in this case, Detroit just swapped picks basically. So good news there. This report came out from the Ringer at this point. This was written by Justin Verrier, and how the trade may put Portland on the path back to where it started. And Jamari Grant in Portland might be with Grant now with Damian Lillard in Portland, it may make this team a playoff team. I got to be honest. They may be a playoff team, but I can't see them getting past as a 6 or 7 seed. And even then, they'd be eliminated in the first round. I just don't see it. And it looks good on paper. It does for now, but realistically, I just can't see Jemai Grant in that Portland Trailblazer team ever competing well past the first round. I just don't believe it's going to happen. Now, CJ McCollum maybe, and Grant and Lillard, that could have been something. That may have gotten you to a Western Conference Finals. May have. But now McCollum's in New Orleans. With Zion coming back possibly next year, if he's healthy next year, and maybe in better shape. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's just not realistic, though. It's not in the cards. PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan went on record yesterday saying the LIV Golf Invitational Series is, quote, an irrational threat to the golf game. Close quote here. I'm going to tell you this right now about the LIV right now at this point. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about the LIV. I was able to stream it the other day on my laptop. It's no competition. It's no competition. And the PGA Tour has made it better this year where later in the fall, they're going to have $20 million bonuses, and they're going to give more payout to the players for the 8 live events they're going to have in the PGA Tour. Hell, they're having another U.S. Open in St. Andrews, I think it's July 19th, where they're going to allow LIV golf contributors to play for them. So all the 17 golf players I named the other day, and that included Phil Mickelson, who was suspended, I guess it's no longer suspended. They're allowed to play on this whole thing because I'm going to tell you this right now. It's your first test of LIV golf and PGA Tour. That's all this is. And they're not getting a lot of viewership. Like sometimes this podcast doesn't get a lot of viewership. Not really a lot of noise behind it. It must be doing sour in this case. Like sometimes the show does. This show does a little sour. Sometimes it's got good things going. Sometimes it doesn't have good things going. It's tough. But the golf thing especially, LIV golf, boy, is that bad. I mean, you talk about a whopping thumbs down on that golf thing. I mean, it's terrible. I don't know why Portland, Oregon wants this in the Pumpkin Ridge. I have no idea. I was actually giving my thoughts on where they should do the LIV golf series in Rhode Island in some of the country clubs, like in Quonset Point or Beaver River and Hope Valley. But after watching that, I said, forget it. That's never going to happen. And I wouldn't, if I'm Rhode Island, I wouldn't waste taxpayers' money on it. Just wouldn't do it. LIV golf is no threat to the PGA Tour. Now, if you had Tiger Woods at full health in his early 20s, maybe in his 30s, or Phil Mickelson in his early 30s, then you're in trouble. Then you got these younger guys now in the younger 20s right now who have not reached their peak yet. It'd be a big threat. But when you watch how Tiger plays golf now in comparison to Phil Mickelson, who, by the way, won a major at 50 years old. Granted, he did. But he's not doing it in a convincing style like he normally would do. And you're not getting Tiger Woods, the GOAT, in golf in 25 years of age. You're going to beat up Tiger Woods with a bad back, drug overdose guy who somehow didn't die from the amount of pills that he took in years past, and he actually got into almost a year ago. Well past a year ago, actually. I'm sorry. I mean, you're not getting Tiger Woods at that age. You're getting Tiger Woods now who's beat up and just well past his prime and well past his peak. Now, he's not even playing in PGA Tour. I doubt he'll be playing this fall. He's not in his right frame of mind. I think he steps away from the game, honestly, from all this. You talk about, throwing that little bit of carrot at Tiger Woods for him to come back. LIV right now wants Tiger Woods to come there. The problem is he's not at full health. He's not at full health. To say that this is a threat, though, to the game, I read this, I go, ugh. It's not a threat. There's no threat to the golf world. There really isn't. LIV golf right now is a poor excuse right now of a PGA Tour copyright bootleg version of their coverage. That's all it is. It's a bootleg, a big giant freaking bootleg. Really, it's not even a threat. And for him to go out and say it, and the only reason why they're going out and saying it is because they're going by the viewership and how much he would make right now as a commissioner of the game. That's it. Here's what was written about this, according to Mark Skalbrook, ESPN senior writer. If there was any doubt about the venom brewing between the PGA Tour and the rival LIV Golf Invitational Series, the latest salvo was delivered by the breakaway circuit on Wednesday. Just as PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan was unveiling increased pursues a revamped schedule and dramatic changes to the FedEx Cup playoffs. LIV Golf sent a new release confirming that four-time major champion Brooks Koepka had defected to the new circuit being financed by Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. As I also said to the players on Tuesday, let me be clear, I am not naive, Monahan said during a news conference at Travelers Championship in Cromwell, Connecticut. If this is an arms race and if the only weapons here are dollar bills, the PGA Tour can't compete. So they can't compete from a financial standpoint, which is a bunch of hooey because they probably can. They're just not willing to just pay it up, really. The PGA Tour, an American institute, can't compete with a foreign monarchy that is spending billions of dollars in an attempt to buy the game of golf. We welcome healthy competition. We welcome good, healthy competition. The LIV Saudi Golf League is not that. It's an irrational threat. One's not concerned with its return on investment or true growth of the game. Koepka, an 8-time winner on the tour, who has earned nearly $38 million during his career, is the latest PGA Tour member to be lured away by a signing bonus of more than $100 million. Sources told ESPN. He joined our major winners Dustin Johnson, Bryce DeChambeau, and Patrick Reed among the defectors. Quote, currently no one organization owns or dominates the game of golf, Monahan says. Instead, the various entitles, be it Augusta National or the USGA or LPGA or the PGA Tour or the PGA of America, work together and meet our own respective priorities, but with the best interest of the game overall at heart. But when someone attempts to buy the sport, dismantle the institutions that are intrinsically invested in its growth and focus only on a personal priority, that partnership evaporates, and instead we end up with endless amounts of money to direct employees, not members or partners, towards their personal goal, which may or may not change tomorrow or the next day. I doubt that that's the vision any of us have for the game. In a memo sent to the players on Wednesday, the PGA Tour detailed about $54 million in pursuit increase for 8 existing tournaments. Century Tournament of Champions from $8.2 million to $15 million. The Genesis Invitational, Arnold Palmer Invitational, the WGC Dell Technologies Match Play, and the Memorial Tournament that will go from $12 million to $20 million. The players will go from $20 million to $25 million. The FedEx St. Jude Championship and BMW Championship goes from $15 million to $20 million. So a lot of increases right now. But to say that this is not even a threat, to say it's not even a threat at this point, why even up the money at this point? If LIV is not even a threat to you, what is the point of changing all this? And it's not like you're really like, are you going to allow the LIV people right now who led the PGA to play in your invitational series games now at this point? And here's a question right now that comes in my head right now at this point is, are they going to accept those offers? Because we don't know. We don't even know at this point if these golf players, at this point, they're probably going to have their own invitational series. But let's be right now. It's a crock of crap. It's not good. The fact that they're only having one thing in the United States right now in a really in a crappy area in Portland, Oregon, in a Pumpkin Ridge, to me, I just think it's just kind of dumb. In a golf series that no one's ever going to watch, no one's ever going to care about. And golf, to me, is a great sport. Playing it and watching it, being at the event live. To watch the Saudi Arabia version of this stuff right now with players who are well past the mark, not thought about at any particular point in time, not the most talked about players through social media to me. Like Phil Mickelson's still a big name because he's been around longer. The difference is he's not the guy he used to be. Now, if you had Tiger Woods at that point playing the LIV, let me tell you right now, the PGA Tour and LIV would have a partnership and they would split the funding. They would split the funding because Tiger Woods could make it happen. If Jack Nicholson was still around, the funding would still happen. It just, at the end of the day, you hear stuff, and I put on record saying it might kill the PGA Masters and all that stuff right now. With this announcement and the fact that they're not taking it as a threat at this point, that's a good sign for PGA lasting even longer. And the fact that LIV is the way it is right now, it's pathetic. It's terrible. If you don't believe it, go ahead and watch it. You'll shut up after the first 5 minutes. Getting into the Colin Kaepernick story this week. I don't think I put this in my I have a couple more football, but Warren Sapp went viral over the last few hours or so. It didn't really get a lot of views right away at first, but this was about the practice that Colin Kaepernick had, and how the Raiders went on record by saying, quote, it went. Of course, they had the NFL owners, how they're slave owners and blah, blah, blah. It just. But this right here, this is the story. Right, this to me takes the cake. Here's the clip.
Kaepernick coming back. I mean, he tried out with the Raiders recently, but I heard the trial wasn't all that great.
I heard it was a disaster. I heard one of the worst workouts ever. I'm wondering how the hell this happened and the tape didn't get out, right? Hey? I mean, somebody wasn't over the fence or.
I apologize for the buffering here. Unfortunately, my Wi-Fi connection is not doing
so. Come on, man.
Oh, here we go.
We live in a world right now where you put a drone up. It ain't like they can stop you. They ain't gonna stop the workout. Talking about there's a drone up there. We don't know what this is. I mean, what? Come on.
So he went on. This was a 6-minute and 19-second clip, but you get the point here about the Colin Kaepernick stuff. You want to know why that was never released? And you want to know why Derek Carr didn't feel threatened by this? Because Derek Carr knew how bad it was. I would have loved it if Derek Carr went on national television that time during that press conference and roasted the crap out of him, because it would have been hilarious. It would have been funny, right? Again, for Warren Sapp to go on record and say it was awful and all that, and how no one released it. Because you want to know why no one wanted to release it? Because Colin Kaepernick would have, had a big giant lawsuit with the NFL. It would have been like a woke campaign of like, oh, I can't be filmed with this. Don't film me, blah, blah, blah. I mean, for this to even happen, and the fact that there was never any footage of it, I just thought to myself, they showed more footage of him playing spring football for Michigan Wolverine football than it was for this practice. He did better at that than he did at the freaking practice for the Las Vegas Raiders. What does that tell you? But it went that badly. And to that I say, Colin Kaepernick's, as far as comeback to the NFL goes, it's out the window. I mean, the things I even said about this on this podcast, on whether or not he would play or not, unless he did all these things I said, like apologize to all the NFL owners, stand for the national anthem, sing the national anthem, and do all that. It's never going to happen. But it'd be nice to play hypothetical here and see whether or not they would actually go through with it. I don't know. To me, I just think it's just a big old mess. At this point, I can see Kaepernick retaliating after this, even though this was like 7 days ago. I'm surprised he never even retaliated, period, that we even know of. Maybe it already happened and it hasn't made the airwaves yet through YouTube or anything like that. But it's going to happen. Colin Kaepernick will have his day. We'll see a Twitter beef with Kaepernick. We'll see a Twitter beef with Warren Sapp. It may lead into something interesting. I don't know. I kind of hope it does, because I will be the first one to cover it if it happens. Archie Manning, the son of Cooper Manning, the Uncle Peyton and Uncle Eli, getting the news today about their nephew, and Cooper getting the news about his son being now a Texas Longhorn, as he announced today. This is according to Fox News. That he is going to be a Texas Longhorn, that he has chose to play for the Texas Longhorns for the 2022 college football season. He's going to get the job. A lot of people are saying Cooper has said right now that he's gone on record saying that he's better than Peyton and Eli combined. So a lot of pressure there for the freshman, who's now going to be proving himself now with the Texas Longhorns. By the way, going in an SEC program as well, as they're heading to the SEC. Within the 2023 year. I believe it's 2025, I believe. I'm not sure if it's 2023 or 2025, but they will be part of the SEC along with Oklahoma. So a lot of pressure on this kid now. And I think realistically here, it'll be very interesting to see what he will do for the Texas Longhorns. I kind of am looking forward to him being a starting quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. And honestly, I'm not even a big Texas Longhorn fan. I don't like Texas Longhorns that much. I don't even like the Alabama Crimson Tide. But that is one game, because by the way, they'll be playing on September 10th. That is one game I will be invested on watching, because Alabama will be visiting Texas on September 10th of the week 2 of the college football season. So I'll be watching that game very closely on whether or not that Archie Manning is the next Peyton or the next Eli. And I'll give you my thought on that very thing. By the way, college football is almost 2 months away, 2.5 months away, just FYI, because it's the third week of June. So I would say it's 3 months if it was June 10th, but it's really 2.5 months. So that's it. We're signing off the show. I will be doing another show on Tuesday. There's not going to be any post-wrap. I will be posting some hockey Stanley Cup Finals scores, highlights on my stories on Instagram. If you want to go ahead and follow me on Instagram, go ahead and follow me on Facebook. Go ahead and follow me on Snapchat. You know the rest of the stuff, my social media, stuff like that. As far as Michael Smith goes, who knows if he's ever going to be on the show ever again. He never left me a message, never left me a call. I'm probably going to hear from him saying, "Oh, how come you didn't call me?" It's like, I was waiting on you to call me, brother. But, as far as him on this podcast, on his future of this podcast goes, well, I'll let you all know whether or not he is going to be a co-host still. So anyway, I am signing off. You'll see me again on Tuesday. Have a great, safe weekend, everybody.